Hey, I'm Jeff and welcome back to another video. I just finished unboxing 5 new plants from Parkfolia, and with one of them being this is the tissue cultured philodendron Spiritus Sancti. It is in a tissue culture flask. Looks like a little science experiment. I did send a picture on Instagram to the owner of the company saying this looks like a little alien in a jar, and then she asked what the shipping company did to my plant. So the box is a little bit busted up, and I guess the gelatin or the sugar-based gelatin should be at the bottom of the container, and you can see it's just kind of all over. So now I have to go through the process of removing the plant from the container, going through a little bit of a bath or a cleansing procedure, and then potting it up in some growing medium. It looks like fluval stratum as well as some perlite, and she did supply a tissue culture acclimation kit. It does come with instructions, so let's get started. On the Parkfolia website, it does give a whole list of instructions on how to remove the plant, how to clean it, and then pot it up in its container. So I have my list of, I guess, items which are on the website here, and it says a small pot. I'm just going to use a Tupperware container here. So it says to use like a clear cup or something for the plant itself. You want to make sure that it remains in 100% humidity once you plant it, otherwise it'll dry up, die. It says to use distilled water, a betadine solution. If you don't have that, you can supplement that with a hydrogen peroxide, which I do have on hand. And then it says substrate of choice. She did provide a little bit of the fluval stratum as well as perlite. I may add a little bit more perlite into the container if it's not enough. Some long tweezers, but I just have these small ones. So it says to remove the plant from the container 1 to 3 days after receiving it. Do not put it in any direct sunlight. If the gel is contaminated with any mold, so you might see a little bit of, it says kind of gray spots, black or gray spots, then remove it immediately as mold can quickly kill the plant. I feel like I'm doing a science experiment right now, like I need a lab coat or something. So it says the gelatin may separate and become chunky / liquid. It is normal due to the temperature fluctuations during shipping. So everything looks really clean in the container. I'm not seeing any black or gray mold issues. The plant looks to be intact, other than being kind of on its side from getting tossed around and shipping. Now to step 2, it says removing the plant. Pour distilled water in your bowl. Just going to get this stuff out of the way. I brought a pencil in. I'm not too sure if it's needed in this little instructional video or not, but I brought it in anyways. So I'm just going to pour in the distilled water like that. Now the next step is, it says add a few drops of betadine solution. I don't have that, so I'm just going to put a little bit of the hydrogen peroxide. This just helps kill any bacteria that might be in the solution. So a couple drops. I'm just going to add in a couple of the hydrogen peroxide. So something like that. I think I added a few more drops than I probably should have. It doesn't say how much, but I added more than a couple drops, so I'm going to add a little bit more distilled water, just dilute that a bit more, or something like that. Now I'm going to remove, it feels like saran wrap over the lid. I think this is to keep any contamination out during shipping. And now to open up the container, take your tweezers. I don't have the long tweezers. I just have the small ones, so I'm going to be as delicate as I can with these. And I just want to grab the plant out. Something like that. And then I'm going to place the plant in the water. So now it says to slowly and gently move the plant around and let it soak for about 10 to 20 minutes. You want to make sure that 100% of the gel is off the plants, as it's made with sugar and will cause rot if any gel is left on the plant. I'm just reading the little instructions here. So you can use a little paintbrush as well, but I'm going to see, well, I do have one on hand, but I can't find it right now. So I'm just going to try and do this method here, just like kind of agitating the gel here. It just looks like an outer coating on the roots here. I don't know if the roots themselves are fuzzy. It's really weird. It feels almost like a fuzzy root. I don't know if it's the gel or not, or if it's the actual root. I've never done this before, so this is a complete learning process for me as well. I'm just going to take this little lower leaf off. It says to remove some of the lower leaves as it's probably just going to rot away anyways. Okay, I hopped over on Instagram, showed her a picture, and she said everything looks good. It is just the fuzzy roots on this plant. So now I'm going to place this in the container with the perlite and fluval, but she said just to make sure that obviously I place the roots facing downwards. For some reason they like to grow up upwards in the glass container there. So look at these beautiful leaves, if it'll focus there. What a beautiful little plant. So now the process of just placing it in the container and yeah, potting it up. I added a little bit of extra perlite to the mixture here, and then I pre-soaked it with distilled water. I'm going to be using distilled water for the first 2 weeks, and I guess this has to remain in 100% humidity as well. So I did purchase this little cup. It comes with the plant, or it has an option for like a couple extra dollars. You can get this acclimation kit. So it does come with a little cover with no holes. So it does have to remain in 100% humidity. I'm just going to add a little bit of this into the bottom of the container. I'm going to use my pencil, maybe to help with holding down the roots. So I'm just going to add just a little bit, maybe half of it, like so. Just going to pack that down a little bit. So I've got half a cup of the mixture. Now I'm going to use the tweezers, remove the plant from the water, and then I'm going to place it in the cup. Hopefully these roots behave. Such a tiny little plant. That's the crazy thing about tissue culture, is how small the plants are. And I know you can buy some of these flasks with multiple plants in it. Some have like 5, 10, even 10 separate plants in a container. Now I don't know if I should use like a little spoon or if I should just dump this on. I feel like I should use a little spoon or something. You need like tiny little instruments to scoop stuff out. So it's seated okay in the container, but I don't know if I should use a spoon. I don't want to break any of the roots, and I don't want to break obviously any of the leaves. I'm gonna try and keep this upright. It's got a little, like it's got a new growth point on top. I'm just gonna see if I can maybe squish down those roots. Now I kind of want to do this as fast as I can just so it doesn't dry out. Now I got my little spoon right here, and I did spray it down with a rubbing alcohol just to make sure that that is clean as well and there's no contamination on it. I'm just going to use my tweezers to push the plant this way, and I'm just going to cover these roots as best as I can, which is not really cooperating. Just want to get these leaves. This is quite the little delicate process. Actually, that's looking okay. Just going to put a little bit more on this side. Looks like those roots are covered up. I'm just going to pull this leaf up a little bit. Same with this one here in a second. Just going to use the tweezers. I'm not used to being so delicate with a little plant cutting, like so. Looks like a root needs to be covered up over here. Gonna pack that down. There's a root right there. Actually, this is easier than I thought it was going to be. I have really good success with growing alocasias in just straight perlite. So I'm not too worried about this medium at all. And I shouldn't have to really water it, just because when I have the lid covered, it should maintain all the moisture and humidity in there. Okay, so that looks pretty good actually. Looks like all the roots are covered up. The leaves are above the soil line. So here's what the finished product looks like. Now I'm just going to add the lid just to seal it in. Now I might ask another question on Instagram to the owner just to see if she recommends maybe putting it on a heat pad. I don't know if heat has any effect on these tissue culture cuttings, or if she's had any experience with it, or if I should just leave it out in the open. Okay, it's all potted up and it says step 4 is the acclimating process, and it gives a whole list of what you should do, oops, itchy nose, in regards to placement of the plant, opening the lid, how often you should do it. So just go online and follow along with those instructions. The process itself was actually pretty easy. I was a little bit maybe concerned at first just with how small the plant is and how delicate it is. I was kind of worried that I was going to break one of the roots off, but that didn't happen. Everything looks good. I'm going to be placing it down on the floor. Oops, a fly just literally flew in front of the lens. I'm going to be placing it on the floor here underneath grow lights. I will be having mine under grow lights. It says if you do have it in natural sunlight, just make sure it's not getting any direct sunlight, just in a nice bright area, but no direct sunlight. So we'll give this about 7 days or so and we'll check back. Okay, it's been about a week since I potted it into the acclimation container. It's actually been 8 days, and it was recommended to me that I do not put it on a heat mat. So I had it just off to the side underneath the grow lights. Everything is doing really well. I haven't lost any leaves, and I'm actually getting a new leaf on this plant. And yeah, it's been doing really, really good. Had a little bit of a situation today where I've been moving some plants around. I've been cleaning off the leaves, and I actually kicked this because it was on the floor, and it kind of went tumbling. So some of the medium got a little bit disturbed. I tried to put the plant back roughly into its original position. It's undamaged, so everything is looking good. Now, in following the acclimation instructions on the website, it says after a week, you're supposed to open the lid of the container for about 1 to 2 minutes per day, just acclimating it to the regular house humidity. And you're supposed to increase that by, I think it's at a minute or 2 per day. So tomorrow I'll probably open it for like 3 or 4 minutes. So I'm going to open it right now for about a minute or 2. And then I will seal up the container again. This just helps the plant slowly transition to regular air and house humidity, temperatures, all that kind of stuff. And since I have the lid off, I'm just going to show you the plant. Everything is looking really nice and green, and there is the newest leaf. So I'm going to have to try and position this a little bit better so those roots are in the growing medium again. I'm going to keep an eye on my stopwatch so that I don't go over 2 minutes, and then I will seal it back up again, and then I'll provide another update in about a week or so. Okay, so it's been a bit of a gap since the first update. It is now 2 months since being in the little plastic acclimation kit. I did film about a month ago, kind of halfway through the whole process, just a small little update. It had gotten a leaf, and I think I was up to about 10 minutes with the top being off. Stick really close to those time frames, because I did notice even when taking off the lid for 10 minutes, it did start to dry up. I did occasionally have to add a little bit of water just with my spray bottle just into the container, put the lid on, and it was good to go. Probably after that update, I kept the lid off longer, and I didn't really follow the instructions as well as I probably should have. I didn't lose any leaves or anything like that. It actually did really well, and so you can see it has grown quite a bit since that last update video, and the roots on it look really healthy as well. Just with the busyness of life in general, and we had our kind of final camping trip, it was a little bit more of a sporadic schedule, I guess. So it was a little bit tougher to keep to those very specific times with keeping the lid off and putting it back on. But overall, it did really well. It didn't struggle. It didn't lose any leaves or anything like that. Now that the plant is a little bit larger, I'm not going to upsize this quite yet, but what I might do is add a couple drainage holes in the bottom, just because those roots, they're still very thin, and I feel like they're susceptible to overwatering, or if there's any water pooling at the bottom. So today I'm going to be adding just a couple small little drain holes on the bottom. I don't want the roots to end up rotting in this little container. So once it gets a little bit larger, maybe two or three more leaves, then I'm going to take it out of the fluval stratum and perlite, and I might put it in something a little bit chunkier, like an aroid mix. Before I started filming today's video, I went back and looked at the footage that I filmed from 2 months ago when I first put it in the container, and it's actually quite surprising how much it's grown since then. You just kind of forget, or you don't really realize how much it grows in that time frame, just because if you look at the original leaves, like how tiny they are, they've pretty much doubled, almost tripled in size since then. So I'm guessing these 3 leaves are all new since adding it to the acclimation or to the plastic cup. I don't know why I'm calling it acclimation kit, because it's just a plastic cup. But the root system has gotten much larger, and so has the leaves, and you can see obviously there's a new leaf coming. So I don't really have anything that I can poke holes in the bottom with, so I'm just using the kind of sharp end here of my pruning shears, and I'm just going to, without making a mess, just kind of lightly wiggle. I don't want this plant to go flying. Okay, so there. Just put in a couple little drain holes in the bottom, just like that. So I don't know if you can see it, but there's one hole right there. I'll add a couple more, and then I'll just kind of leave it alone for the next maybe couple months. It's a little bit nerve-wracking starting this process, just because of how small the plant was, and I've never done anything like this, but overall it was a really easy process. I would definitely buy a tissue culture plant in a flask again, especially when, like this plant, if you were to buy it as a more mature plant, this is very expensive, or it's still very expensive. So it's a good way to buy expensive plants when they're smaller, and from tissue culture, it's just a more affordable option. And there is no difference in quality of the plants. Like, this is a super healthy plant. I'm extremely happy with this plant so far, and I can't wait till I get those larger leaves. Might be a couple of years away from getting the big, massive philodendron Spiritus Sancti leaves, but overall I'm happy with this process. I got 3 little holes in the bottom. I think that should be sufficient for right now. I think that's going to be pretty much it for this video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave it down below in the comment section. Let me know if you've done a tissue culture plant acclimation before and how it went for you. What type of growing medium you used, or what type of process, if it's been different from mine. Otherwise, go check out Parkfolia's website. I know there's a couple other YouTube channels and companies that sell tissue culture plants. Go check out their channels, and I always like to support small businesses like Parkfolia. So go check out her plants, and yeah, thanks for watching. See ya.